A woman is buried up to her waist in dark soil. She cannot move her legs. She cannot run. The man standing above her is not a killer, not yet. He is the man she paid for help. She came to him because her husband was cheating. She came because she wanted to be beautiful. She came because she believed he was a dukun, a shaman who could change her life. He strangles her with an electrical cable. He kneels beside her face, and he drinks her saliva. Then he strips the clothes from her body to speed up decomposition. He buries her completely, head pointing toward his house, so her spirit will channel power directly to him. He does this 42 times, over 11 years. When police finally dig up the sugarcane field behind his home, they find bodies arranged in a pattern, all facing him, all pointing inward, like satellites orbiting a star. His name is Ahmad Suradji. In Medan, Indonesia, he was the datuk, the healer, the man who could make your husband faithful, your skin radiant, your bank account full. They trusted him with their lives. That was the mistake. Back in 1986, northern Sumatra was the perfect hunting ground. The sugarcane fields surrounding Medan are dense enough to swallow a person whole. Suradji was 37, a cattle breeder, and he had a reputation. But he had something else too, an entourage. Ahmad Suradji lived with 3 wives, all of them sisters. This isn't just a bizarre domestic detail. It is the foundation of his operation. These 3 women were not just his wives. They were the essential cogs in the infrastructure of his murders. They managed the intake of clients. They handled the money. They maintained the household, while Suradji conducted his rituals in the sugarcane field behind the home. When a client arrived, one sister might make tea, another might watch the cattle, the third might watch the door. They were the logistical support for a serial killer. For 11 years, they lived on top of a graveyard. They woke up, they ate, they slept, they chatted with neighbors. They knew. They had to know. The muffled sounds from the field, the smell of decomposition, the sudden, unexplained disappearances of women who went behind their house and never came out. They were his partners in crime. They were the silent witnesses to 42 murders, and they never cracked. Why did a cattle breeder turn into one of the 20th century's worst serial killers? Suradji claimed a ghost appeared to him in a dream, his deceased father, commanding him to kill 70 women and drink their saliva to gain unlimited power. He was impatient. Waiting for 70 women to die naturally would take too long, so he created his own supply. He kept his murder spree operating like a business. He took appointments. He accepted fees. The women did not report him because they were ashamed to tell anyone they had visited a sorcerer. Families didn't look for them because they assumed they had vanished into the city or run away. The sugarcane field kept his secret for 11 years. His wives were the silent architects of this normalcy. They enabled the facade of the respectable cattle farmer. Every murder required them to accept the reality of the situation. Every disappearance required them to maintain the lie. The break came in April 1997. 21-year-old Shri Kamaladewi vanished after telling a rickshaw driver she was going to see the datuk. 3 days later, her decomposing body was found in the field. Police arrested Suradji. He denied everything until they found Dewey's personal items inside his home. The dam broke. He confessed to 42 murders. Then, the forensic work began. It wasn't just digging. It was systematic, cold, precise. The investigative team had to map the entire grid of the sugarcane field. They used metal detectors, probing the soft, dark earth for more than just human remains. They found a horrific archive. Buried within inches of each victim, they found the personal belongings that tied them to their previous lives. Gold necklaces, watches that had stopped ticking years before, hairpins, earrings, ID cards, even photographs. These items were not just trash, they were trophies. Suradji kept them as a collection of his conquests, a physical ledger of his ritual power. The forensic team used these items to piece together a timeline. As they moved from one section of the field to another, they began to recognize the grid. Every body was stripped. Every body was oriented toward the central house. It was a map of madness. They matched the items found in the field to the missing person reports. Families had filed months, sometimes years prior. The police had to handle the excavation with excruciating care. In the humid heat of Sumatra, decomposition was rapid. They weren't just digging for skeletons. They were painstakingly extracting evidence from a swamp of rot. Every bone, every piece of jewelry, every fragment of cloth was tagged, bagged, and indexed. It was a digital archive of murder buried in the soil. DNA, matching in 1997, was not as advanced as it is today, but the sheer physical volume of evidence was impossible to dispute. They had items from his house that matched the victims in the ground. The impact on the Medan community was immediate and cataclysmic. It wasn't just a local story, it was a national horror. The trial was the first time the society was forced to confront the dark reality of their own culture's deep-seated reliance on the supernatural. The courtroom in Lubuk Pakem became the stage for a societal reckoning. It was packed. People stood outside in the blistering heat just to hear the proceedings through speakers. Protests broke out daily. The public was not just demanding justice for the dead, they were demanding a purge. They wanted the wives to pay, the system to be dismantled, and the shame of their community to be addressed. The anger was palpable. It felt as if a protective veil had been ripped away, exposing a rot that everyone suspected, but no one wanted to admit. The judges themselves were visibly shaken by the testimonies. Family after family took the stand, recounting their final memories of their daughters and sisters who had gone to see a man they trusted, a man they paid, to fix their broken lives. Suradji remained eerily calm throughout, a man who still seemed to believe he was acting under divine instruction. His wife, Tamini, remained stoic. Their combined indifference to the suffering they had caused fueled the crowds outside. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Death by firing squad. The cheers that erupted from the courthouse as the sentence was read were not just for justice. They were for catharsis. On July 10th, 2008, after 11 years on death row, Ahmad Suradji was executed. He was 59. He died the same way he lived, a predator who believed he was a god, oblivious to the monstrous reality of his own actions. Tumini, his wife, and the sister most involved in the crimes, was sentenced to death, which was later reduced to life in prison. The other two wives were released. They returned to the shadows, their involvement in the deaths of 42 women effectively ignored by the legal system that couldn't quite fathom their level of complicity. The horror of this case isn't just the killings, it's the infrastructure of trust that made it possible. Suradji did not abduct strangers from the street. He opened his door. He accepted clients. He charged fees. He ran a business. And his victims walked into that sugarcane field of their own free will. They trusted him because their culture told them the dukun has power. They trusted him because his wives, by their very presence, validated his respectability. They trusted him until the cable tightened around their necks. 42 women, 11 years, 0 warnings. The most dangerous predator is not the one who hides. It is the one who is trusted, the one you pay, the one whose door you walk through willingly, the one whose ritual you participate in because everyone around you believes the magic is real. After his death, the dukun trade did not collapse. It didn't even slow down. The Suradji case, one of the most horrific serial killing sprees in modern history, barely dented the faith. That is the true horror. The system of belief that delivered those women to his door, alive, willing, and silent, is still operating. If this case stayed with you, subscribe. I cover the crimes the West ignores, the ones buried in the blind spots of the world. Drop a comment telling me which case you want next. The next victim is always someone who trusted.